there's so many certifications that they have right here for you to get. Of course, you have to study for and take the test. And yes, it costs money, but like how much? I don't understand why people won't spend money on their education. They'll spend money on all this other stuff, but they won't spend money on the stuff that's actually going to help them to make money. You know, like, hey, I don't want to pay for this because X, Y, and Z. But yeah, you'll pay for a whole bunch of garbage food. You pay for your fancy car that you went into debt for. You pay for the yeah. It's like, come on, man, we got to get our priorities in check.
Greetings, family. This is Kyle Dixon, co-founder of Precise Minds Filmworks, educator for 20 plus years, cultural enthusiast.
And I'm Kayode Bentley, president and founder of 4T's Teaching Teens to Think, whose mission is to help inner city youth identify their inherent skill sets in order to complete their education, establish a career, and ultimately start a business, if they choose to. Professor at Fordham University, where I teach students who are pursuing their master's degree in social justice.
And with that said, welcome to the Grand Rising Collective, a podcast whose purpose is to cultivate greatness and excellence within ourselves and our communities. The name itself is from the morning greeting of Grand Rising, which we interpret as starting off the day with a greatness mindset so that we are able to rise to the occasion of whatever obstacles and challenges we may face.
And that's why we focus on engagement, relevant information, and empowerment for people in our communities who want to be and do better in their daily lives.
Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Grand Rising, everyone. Grand Rising. Welcome to another cool, informative, empowering episode of the Grand Rising Collective podcast. Welcome. For those who have been here before, welcome back. All right. So we have a special show for y'all today. Special discussion. All right. One of the first times for those people who listened to us from the beginning, one of the first times that we've had two people on at the same time, right? Two guests, special guests on at the same time. And we definitely did this for a reason, family, and it's definitely going to be worth your while. So again, this is the Grand Rising Collective podcast. For those who know, a podcast, we're here for our excellence, our empowerment, our engagement, and therefore people in the professional industry, in our communities, giving us key information about what's going on, how they're doing it, what they're doing it with, and just a worldwide pantheon of people that we've had on up to this point that will give us this type of info. That way we can move forward in life, in business, career, industry, whatever the case may be. So without further ado, I want to introduce two of our guests. All right. But before I do that, I got to introduce my partner in podcast, co-host Kayode Bentley. What's good, man?
What's good, fam? Thank you so much. I can't really elaborate more on what Kyle said. He locked it down again. Just want to reemphasize the information that we're sharing here is to help uplift the neighborhood. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with what the difference between a neighborhood and community. So as we share this information, the goal is to help establish that understanding and build that community. Yeah, I mean, that's all, man. They get on me for being too long-winded. I'm doing my best to try and keep it short. So, yo, Kyle, let's keep it.
All right, see? All right, picking up. Hey, he's picking up on it, family. So, without further ado, let's hop on into it. So, we got our two special guests here today. We got Miss Dorrissa Griffin. All right. And we got Mr. Jupiter Leo. Welcome, you two. Welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Yes, indeed. Glad to have you all here today. And family, we brought these two on because we're talking about the tech industry today. We're talking about Blacks in tech today. And not only Blacks in tech, but these are founders of their particular companies and or internet services that they've created and manifested. So we definitely want to highlight them and talk with them about the dynamics of not only being in the tech industry, but being a founder, co-founder, creator of certain ideas. Now, we, here in Grand Rising Collective, we always talk about ideas of reference of ownership, entrepreneurship, business, and also just kind of people who are not only trailblazers, but people who are doing great things behind the scenes that don't get enough notoriety or get enough publicity. So let's get into it. So Dorrissa, could you tell us, you and Judy, could y'all tell us a little bit about your background, like your influences, how you got into it, just the dynamics of that all?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kyle and Kayode, for having me on the collective. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this time with you guys and to share a little bit about what I'm doing. As you mentioned, I'm Dorrissa. My company is called I'm the founder of Cos Music, and it's an app that creates a personal theme song based on your astrology. And it's currently under development, but I'm an attorney turned techpreneur who is pursuing her lifelong passion of entrepreneurship. I started out actually in the early part of my legal career helping small and minority business owners in the telecom space with helping to find opportunities for access to capital and also issues of bridging the digital divide and having broadband adoptions in underserved and underrepresented communities. So that's how I started out, and that's a big reason why I got so comfortable in the tech space. I have always had a propensity towards tech. I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in all the tech boom, so I always had it as a part of my life, and finding a good fit for what I was passionate about and getting able to pursue that is something that Cos Music has allowed me to do. So I'm very excited to talk about it. I'm very excited to share about what it can do for you and talk about tech and how I can help people who want to get into the field. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up. That's like so inspiring. Really appreciate, what you're doing. And also, with the whole astrology aspect, I think that's just like really like transformative. So, just want to give you a shout out for that for sure.
Thank you.
Indeed.
No doubt.
I'm excited to hear about you, Jupiter.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. My name is Jupiter. People know me, Jupiter Joe Green, I've been in technology probably for really all my life, man. I've been working on computers since they had like the black screens you just type in and you got the, different colors and stuff like that, installing software, on floppy disk, and, I'm an 80s baby also. So, I've seen so many things transpire. I originally went to City College for computer science. I've had, a lot of different experiences, and we'll touch on this in terms of education. Having that representation really matters to keep you moving forward and keep you pushing and having somebody, really supporting you, being focused on your goals when you're trying to achieve these, technology dreams and learning how to code or learning how to do computer science and stuff. Unfortunately, that wasn't my story. So I ended up doing media. It worked out. But I came back home, right after school. I pretty much, did freelance coding and website design for people over the years, to small businesses, nonprofits, schools, things of that sort. I've taught coding for the last 5 years for after school program that I ran around the city, had a staff and the whole nine. With the pandemic, we all know what happened with that.
Yeah.
So, I had a decision to make, like, do I want to continue to run around and hustle, or do I want to do something a little bit more impactful and something that I could really hone my skills on? So I actually learned programming last year, JavaScript programming, went hard at it, basically created an app called Sister Salon. And it's basically an app that teaches young Black girls around the world to love their natural beauty through learning business skills and also life skills. So they play in the salon, they change up their look, they could do a whole bunch of stuff, but they need to see their self, their beauty, their representation, us as African people, because they don't see that in the mainstream. So I wanted to put that out there. So it took me a while to learn everything, but I'm a fast learner, and we're on Android and we're on iOS. We're still getting started. So a little rough around the edges. We don't have all the features yet we want, but we have a working model that kids can play. And we've seen, people have sent us pictures of the girls playing, and, it really makes me feel good, as a Leo, because that's my heart, and nothing makes me feel better than, making sure the children, are feeling their best and knowing that they are special, that they are good.
Indeed. Woo. I told y'all, family. told y'all, real play the
hitters.
Yo, you just gotta be real out here, man. Like, we've seen a lot this last year.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything, when you see all the nonsense that transpired this last year and all the lives lost that last year, it really makes you, really consider, like, what is your life path? What are you really doing? Are you doing something that moves you? Are you doing something that you really don't like? And are you able to spend time with the people that you love? Will your job give you time to spend, to even grieve if something does happen? Those are things that, hopefully, you see it now, especially in the tech industry, like people like, yo, I'm not going back. I'm tired of this. I'll find something else to do, and that's just what it is. So I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent, but that's just the stuff that's important, and technology helps. Technology has helped us with that.
Yeah, especially this past year, like it's been so sobering these past year and a half, pretty much, and knowing that technology has eased a lot of the burden with being able to still connect and stay connected with each other. Like you can't deny, like I think, before the pandemic, people, particularly when it came to broadband adoption, as well as, bridging the digital divide, we're kind of kicking the can down the road on helping communities get connected, whether they be rural or urban. And now it's like, we got to fix this, whatever infrastructure money needs to happen, whatever, development, whatever, the telecom companies can do and tech companies can do to help bridge those divides. Like it's needed right now. So.
Cal, man, I don't know what to say, man. You keep bringing these heavy hitters, man. I don't know where to go with this. Y'all threw a lot of stuff at me. I'm still trying to stick to the script though. All right? The questions, but add some other. Oh man! All right, so
let me go into this core question.
Yeah, please.
So y'all talked about like life path and like direction, right? Especially during this time of COVID, we're just coming out of COVID, somewhat post COVID. How did you all's initial profession kind of lead you into this? Because, we talk about how we have certain careers, we have an idea what our career may be, but like how tech, I guess, either opened up or maybe gave you a different route as far as your career is concerned.
Yeah, so I'll go if you don't mind, Jupiter. For me, one of the things that was the catalyst for getting into the tech, I've always been very focused on community, and I'm very mission driven. So a lot of my life I spent in the public sector, either volunteering or working in the not-for-profit space, whether it be, church community, local school, or recreational centers. And lately, the latest thing was my career at a not-for-profit that was focused on social justice and helping with small and women-owned and minority entrepreneurs who wanted to go into the telecommunications industry. And so when I got started back really in high school, like coding, learning to use JavaScript, learning to use, I don't know if they had HTML at the time, but just tinkering around with things. And then in college, I got a little bit more of a sense of how that worked, not just in the school setting, but in the corporate setting. I worked for a utility company in the marketing department. And one of the things that I had to do in order to get the job was to use the macro on Excel. And I didn't even know what that was. And like Jupiter says, I'm a fast learner. I was like, I want this job. So I just went to the computer lab and I just set myself down and checked out a book from the library and just sat there and learned and just, through a process of trial and error. And I think that's a lot of what, students have to do in order to, and people who aren't as familiar or digitally literate, they just have to sit down and find something that can be a catalyst for them getting into it. And that was one of the things for me that helped me realize how important and central it would be to, my career development, being able to take advantage of opportunities, and just being able to navigate this new digital economy that we now have and that we, all live in. And then aligning that with what I wanted to do in life, which was mostly find the balance between the social justice aspect and, the mission driven aspect, but then also, making money. And I kind of did the reverse from Jupiter. He kind of, went into more, it seems like, the corporate or, the career side. And mine was more so the public service side. Now I'm going into, the private sector and pursuing my dreams that way. But I take all of that knowledge and experience with me. And I think for people who want to begin to make that transition into being more comfortable with tech, or even using tech in a more business, entrepreneurial way, you just gotta have to find that trigger for you, whether it be, learning about 3D printing. There's a lot of free, resources at the local library. Get a library card and go check out all the stuff that they have, and just spend some time, figuring things out, or get inspiration from people that you see doing certain things that you like. I'm a FAMU grad. I went to FAMU Law, and one of the people that really inspire me is Will Packard. He's a diehard FAMU, and he's in the media space, but so much of what you do with making movies, film, entertainment involves technology. And that could be something that, wow, how does he pursue his passion? How does he pursue his goal? And how can I kind of use the information that I can gain from, studying or just being curious to help do the same thing or mimic the same thing. So that would be my tip.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
Joe, what you got?
I mean, I'm still processing everything she said. You gotta repeat the question, because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry, Kai.
So how did your previous career or current career in tech, and then how did it open it up, or manifesting something different? Yeah.
Okay. Well, since I didn't do computer science, I went to media communication arts at City College. So basically, I'm a filmmaker. I have all the skills, filming, editing, things of that sort. So I would do that for small businesses. I would do, events. I'm the event man, the 2-minute promo dude, that would, chop up your video, make it look nice, put it on the internet. Hopefully you make some money, people attract to your business. So been on the computer a lot, these last 20 years. And, that has definitely helped me to be more, adept at being able to, switch around different programs, different, operating systems, being able to help people with Chromebooks when they came out, and, working with the nonprofits that I've worked with over the years, because I've, worked with a number of them to do our coding classes, and then ended up doing robotics classes, and ended up doing, the graphic design. We were doing the Google drawing classes and stuff, as a digital art class. That definitely helped when it came to doing the app, because, what people don't know is that those characters are SVGs. They're not just regular pixel based. So when it comes time to I want to do some T-shirts, I'm not losing any quality, because SVGs are vector based versus being raster based.
Wow. Hey, could you break that down for us?
Please.
Yeah.
So Google Drawings, and it's other programs that do it too, like Inkscape and things of that sort. Google Drawings is basically a vector-based program that uses SVGs on its back end. So whenever you draw something in Google Drawings, you go up to File and you go to Export. You can export it to, PNG, JPEG, but it also gives you an SVG option. And the SVG is basically kind of like a PDF in terms of it won't lose quality whenever you make it big or smaller. So I played the game on my big screen, and it looks exactly the same, because I try to make sure, that was the hard part of making sure that everything in there was SVG. The background, everything is the SVG. So it allows you to basically scale it up or down. Most people on mobile devices, so it's not a big deal. But, who knows? We may want to put it on a PlayStation. We may put it on a different console. And that gives us an opportunity to do those things. And all of those things have helped me to make the game, look the way it does. Hopefully, looks good. Everybody thinks it's cute and nice. and that's great. And I want to continue to keep that, that high quality, because, the girls that we want to play the game and stuff, to let them know, like, hey, this ain't nothing bootleg. You ain't bootleg, so we ain't gonna put nothing out bootleg for you. We love you, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. All right.
That's what it is, man.
Listen, yeah. All right, Cal, let me just dive into it. Okay, so I'm inspired. I don't realize how inspiring this is. But the information that you're sharing is awesome. It's great. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention this as well. My organization is in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club.
Nice.
And there seems to be a disconnect between our inner city youth and the, I guess, aptitude necessary as a whole for them to acclimate to that work structure. They are in an environment that does not motivate or encourage aspirations towards the future, because they don't really see a future. So my question is tying up into, one, the percentage of African Americans that you see in the industry. This is posed to both of you. What are the percentages of African Americans that we see in the industry? Now, I know for myself, when I was in IT, there weren't too many of us in there either, especially working in Fortune 500 companies. This was plus 10 years ago. My question to you is, how many African American men and women, brothers and sisters, do you see represented in the tech industry? Follow-up question, how have you seen an impact among young people? Have they been gravitating to this new technology age? Have been taking advantage of COVID and the quarantine with their phones and everything of that nature to focus on the tech and their future and, just being successful? So those are my two questions. Ladies first.
Yes, Dorrissa.
No, I'll let Jupiter, because this is more his.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't really have too much experience in corporate America. I've worked at nonprofits most of my life, even back to my first job. Some of youth. At a daycare center that I actually attended years ago, when I was a kid. So have you seen any what is our representation African Americans in the from what I know, and I went to a couple, and I'm glad you said something about COVID. COVID was good in the sense that these online events and these online conferences that they had, it was like very easy. Okay, let me just go there because I don't have this other time commitment.
Sure was,
so I attended a couple of them, and I met a lot of people on them. Like a lot of them on my LinkedIn now that we touch base and stuff. I would say it's growing. I would say it's only probably like maybe 10 to 15% just from people that I'm seeing. It's growing though because we have all these online tools. I spoke to a young lady, and she actually got a job based off a nonprofit that was started by a brother to help people get jobs, a tech startup. And I can't remember the name of it offhand and stuff, but she just got that job like 2 weeks ago. It wasn't for a Fortune 500 company, but it was for a mid-sized company. So it's definitely growing. It's definitely improving. I would say just for myself, and I would probably assume this for the young people also. The free resources, which are YouTube, free Code Camp. Yeah. Of course, there's books. It's always, those are not free, but those, there's books out there that people can get into and learn. In terms of them gravitating towards it, they like games, so they're going to gravitate towards games. And to try to, and my hindrance, and I'll be very honest with you, my hindrance to programming was hard. I was like, I don't want to do this. This doesn't make no sense. I don't have any guidance. This was like back in the day. So when JavaScript, had version, ES6 that came out in 2015, that version, they fixed a lot of their bugs. They made it a lot more friendly to use. So when I gravitated to it and got on it, it was a lot easier. And I knew, I said, hey, if I knew how to program, that means I can teach it. And if I can teach it, then that'll get them more into learning about technology and pique their interest. And I always pull up when I was teaching web design, I would always pull up the what's the name of these people? They're the people that basically do the standards for all of the all of the, you know, the Microsoft and the Cisco.
Like NIST?
NIST
or NIST? I forget how to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's something like that.
I mean, NES? Is it NES? Not NES. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's not. It's something similar to what y'all saying. Okay. And I showed them. They have a chart that shows you the path of you going to the different careers and things that you need to learn. And it also has the salaries. Yeah. So whenever I come into a class, first thing I do, I was like, listen, you may think this is hokey pokey, you may think this is boring or whatever. Like, hey, this stuff pays. Like, if you learn your stuff, this stuff pays. And I showed him. He said, well, how long does it take me to learn all that? I was like, well, you know, you're 12 right now. You know, if you study hard and do what you got to do, by the time you're like 15, 16, you could have like a couple of years experience before you even start working. And you may not start at the top, but you're going to get to the top pretty fast because you already have the experience and you're already into it and you're using it every day. So that's what I would say in terms of the climate right now and stuff. I mean, we just need more and more, you know, of us in their faces who has actually done it and actually has something to show them, to inspire them to do better, you know, and hopefully as time goes along and, you know, things open up a little bit more, you know, we're able to do that.
Very good. Thank you. Dorrissa?
Yeah, absolutely. As always, representation matters. No matter the topic, no matter the industry, representation matters. And, you know, for the Black community and our youth, like that's so important. And, you know, being able to see yourself. And in terms of like the numbers, you know, in the tech industry, I wish it was more closer to what Jupiter was saying, but from what I've seen, like the statistics are like 1% to 2%. Particularly at a lot of the larger tech companies like the Googles, the Facebooks, like they just don't have it. You know, you'll see more probably diversity in, you know, maybe like the blue collar, but when you come to like the, you know, white collar or the C-suite, you know, the people who actually wield the power at the companies, like there's nothing. And, you know, having the environments that foster that diversity, that encourage people, that provide mentorship and sponsorship. Those are two very important things, but very different. Mentorship, you know, of course, is, you know, having somebody who's been there, done that, and is willing to guide you along the path. Sponsorship is somebody who's going to write the checks and who's going to pay for the personal development and the professional development that you need, as well as the mental health, because when you're the only person in the room and, you know, a lot of your community and the stereotypes that surround it, like you're fighting a lot, like you're having to show up and be something for, you know, people who, you know, but for you being there may not even get the opportunity to come up behind you. And that's a lot of pressure, you know, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, that's a lot. And, it's, you know, the tech sector is always, you know, changing. It's the bleeding edge. And a lot of what people are learning today, you know, in a year or two, it's completely different. You know, Apple comes out with a new updated, you know, version of Xcode, and now you have to learn all over again. You know, and like what Jupiter was saying, you know, as they get better at things like JavaScript, it lowers the barriers to being able to learn and get involved, which is good for youth and good for students. But I think just generally having a comfort with tech and having a general sense of how things work, you know, what is a code, you know, how is that defined? It's a language that you use to talk to computers. And to get computers to execute on certain actions, you know, what does it look like? Like, how do you make the background white? How do you make the background pink? You know, how do you make these different things happen? And just having a general understanding of it. Because I think once you have like the baseline, even though there's different ways of doing it, like Apple does it different from Google, you know, but once you understand, you know, putting two and two together, it's easier to navigate. But a lot of our students, unfortunately, like you mentioned, Kayode, like they're not getting that. They're not even getting, the entry level basic of it. We're conditioned oftentimes in the Black community to be consumers of the technology instead of creators of it. And that's why I love something like Sister Salon, because it's teaching kids, you're not just a product, you're not just a part of it. You can be the thing, you can be the catalyst for it. And that's what I feel like is important to help in terms of building an image and building a vision for their future, is to help them to see themselves in these processes. When I was a kid, I loved being in competitions. Like I loved sports. I loved a lot of different things. And so just being engaged with other students and making a game out of it and making it fun, and not really thinking about it as school or having to learn something, like those are things that I feel like connect more with them. But then also too, having the family support around them. My mom, she would bring computers home and say, here's a computer, figure it out, and encourage me to do that.
Basically.
Right. Like figure it out and teach me what you did when you did it so that I can do it too.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I feel like students, at least, for me, have been able to advance. That's a lot of what their stories have been. Just kind of here's this thing, play with it and figure it out. And I think that curiosity that youth have, like that's where that comes really in handy to help them to be able to do that. But like Jupiter said, you got to have guidance. You got to have people that you can say, am I doing this right? Does this make sense? And to give some help with that. Being that we have things like YouTube, which I know a lot of kids spend a lot of time on. My little nephew spends a lot of time on YouTube, watching different, cartoons and stuff. But, switching that over to say, here's a tutorial on how to code or how to make SVG files, using the program that Jupiter mentioned and why that's important. Like those are the kinds of things that I think you have to introduce them to. So.
Awesome. I want to check real quick, Kyle. One of the things that I'm learning from Kyle and growing up, which is so, how can I put this? It's so confusing to me at times, is because the book Stolen Legacy that I mentioned before, our culture created hieroglyphics, the language, the sundials. We were mathematicians, the pyramid, lining up with the stars, So I'm saying to myself, sometimes I wonder, how is it possible that we as a culture, the origin, so to speak, created this whole thing that the Greeks came and stole, no offense, right? And now we're in this age where it's like we don't know any of this stuff. When we're pretty much the creators to an extent of it. Again, no offense. So I just find it interesting how we find ourselves at this end of the spectrum, whereas when civilization started, we were at the other end. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I think, like you said, the support from family, very important. That support system, very important. And like you said, representation, Dorrissa, they need to see more of us out there. And I think a combination of that is knowing your history, like Kyle said. They need to know that we didn't come from slavery. That's not where our things, that's not where we started. We started from Egypt. We started from, they need to know we were kings and queens. We were rulers, and I think if a combination, that trifecta of that comes together, we might be able to change the trajectory of our young generation coming up.
Yeah, and to add on to what Kayode's saying, like, and what you all are saying as well, it's like I had those moments growing up as well. Like what Dorrissa was mentioning, like the computer. I call that my VCR moment. My mom, dad, like, yo, fix the VCR. Could you program it for me? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, sure. I go in and they're like, how you doing? I'm like, I spend time with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm messing around with it. That curiosity as a child is one of the key things that we have to nurture in our children. And I think that curiosity will take us so far because there's no limits to it. We as we get older, we start to put limitations on our dreams and aspirations. And with a child, it's all pure. They don't know that they should know not to do that sometimes. They don't know that barrier is there. So that's one of the key things I think what Jupiter's doing with the youth. And what Dorissa's creating with her app is like we're growing the limits, or quote unquote limits of what's capable and what we can do. And I'd be remiss not to say that even when I was coming up, with Jupiter mentioned about video games, I love video games, you know, but I didn't think I could get into the tech industry because I wasn't that good at math, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was good at math. I'm like, this can't work. But now, 30 years later, I found out that I could have been in it all this time. I just did not know that there were other positions I could have played and still had a career and not been that good at math. And I think, you know, that's one of the reasons, you know, that, you know, what these two are doing, family, you know, is very phenomenal, because they're like Chris Dorrissa said, we have to see ourselves in these positions. We have to see it so that we know it's possible.
Awesome. I want to interject real quick. This ties into that. With Kyle having said that, what are the various, if you know, what are the various roles within the tech industry? You know, some kids may think, oh, I don't know math, or I don't like math, or I can't get into coding. I can't get, you know, are there any other positions in, you know, the tech industry that might not be, you know, how can I say, intimidating to young people?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so much. So when you think about technology, you know, you can think of it as, you know, a process, like a software, or you could think of it as a product, like, you know, the hardware, like your computer, you know, versus like what the computer runs on, like your Microsoft Office or something like that. So, but at the base of that, you know, that's the thing. But surrounding that is the business. And every business is the same. You need a sales team, you need executive team, you need a team that runs your operations. You know, you need people who can, you know, manage your communications and your marketing. Like, there's so much that goes into helping the tech field be, you know, the 1/6 of the economy that it is in the United States. And it's not just the tech itself, it's all the things that go, you know, with that. You know, you can be the person who helps to repair a lot of these things that break that you have to keep, you know, replacing every 2 years or 3 years or whatever. So there's so many other different things beyond just knowing how to program or knowing how to code. There's a lot of programs also too that take some of the intense coding out of it, and you can develop products where a lot of the heavy lifting has been done for you, and you're just putting in, you know, the content that makes it unique to what you want to do. And that's, you know, I think the creative part of it, like what Jupiter was mentioning about, you know, you have a product, but now you have to put together this cool video to entice people to actually want to purchase it and understand what it is and how it can benefit them. So there's all different aspects of it. And, you know, the tech people need the marketing people, because the marketing people help with making this thing that they've created that's, you know, metal and steel with computer programming real to human beings who actually have to use the thing, you know, or who want to use it. That's the story of Apple, you know, having been enticed, you know, to use it because it helps them think different, and it creates this whole culture around a specific product and beyond just the product. So those are different things that I think people who, when they think about the tech industry and they get stuck on, that doesn't feel like something that I can, you know, really do. Think broader than that and know that there's a place, you know, for you in it. And a lot of times those careers are high earning as well, because they're in a very, very rapidly growing industry. So there are other avenues.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback on what she's saying, just being able to fix computers, there's money in that. And it may not be the traditional way. I mean, you know, a lot of us think about, you know, getting the job, you know, there's business opportunities out there. There's federal contracting opportunities out there, and they don't really ask you for, you know, if you can, you know, do, you know, the tangent of 700. They just want to know, can you get the job done, and do you have the infrastructure in place and the people to actually get things working? Of course, you have to have your business and everything else established, and some clientele. But there's so many opportunities online to make money using technology. If you're just not you're not adept at, doing like the hardcore coding, just like Dorrissa was saying, if you're a video editor, if you're somebody that, I don't know, can do, who understands crypto, there's so many things out there. I mean, you could be a YouTuber just talking about the stuff that you love. There's so many different ways to make money out here and be creative with your talents that you already have. I actually I looked up the name of that organization. It's called TIA, like computer TIA. And they do all the certifications. And just to run this off the top of my head right here, off the website, they have the fundamentals. They have the A+, which is basically working at the Geek Squad, like the skills you need for that. You have the networking. You got security. You got cloud computing. You got Linux. You got servers. I mean, you got the penetration testing, which is basically trying to get into like, hacking, make sure nobody hacks into like a bank or like a high security system. There's so many certifications that they have right here for you to get. Of course, you have to study for and take the test. And yes, it costs money, but like how much? I don't understand why people won't spend money on their education. They'll spend money on all this other stuff, but they won't spend money on the stuff that's actually going to help them to make money. Like, hey, I don't want to pay for this because X, Y, and Z. But yeah, you'll pay for a whole bunch of garbage food. You pay for your fancy car that you went into debt for. You pay for the yeah. It's like, come on, man. We got to get our priorities in check. I personally, I think I'm becoming a minimalist because it's like all this other stuff doesn't really matter to me. It's like it's about legacy, leaving something that people can benefit from, and that just could be just your words. That could just be your YouTube page. That could be something where you're feeling good and you're taking your talents and your skills and learning. And of course, financial education. That's to me is the most important thing out here because we can get shown to buy stuff, but we can't be shown to buy those same companies that we're buying from. Like, so you like the Nikes, you better own some Nike stock. You can't have 10 pairs of sneakers and then have 10 pairs of Nike stock. That doesn't make any sense.
Speaking,
they're the same price too.
Speaking. It is cheaper, almost cheaper than the actual.
It's almost cheaper depending on what it is and stuff. And if you understand compound interest, it's crazy.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey, fam. See, this is why we had them on, fellas. See, this is things that we've been talking about before, and these are things that need to be said and need to be said over and over again. Because again, our youth, when we talk about our youth are watching us. They're watching us, and other people are watching us. And these are just fundamental things that we can do on a daily that we already really do. Like we had one of our good friends on here, Stephen Warren, and he basically said, if you're already buying the product, you're already investing in the company. So why not just go ahead and get an actual piece of the company?
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
It's just about listen, there's nothing wrong with having nice stuff.
Right.
Like that should be like a partial goal. Like you have that stuff, and then you have your fundamentals in terms of your investments, and then you have your assets pay for those things versus you just paying outright, and then there's only a one-time benefit from it, or it just puts you into debt. So just keep that in mind and stuff. Abundance is out here for everybody out here. If we choose to get it, there's nothing wrong with having nice things, but you need to at least have some fundamentals and some priorities in order.
Very good. Financial management, which is what they say is not being taught in schools, which should be taught in schools. You know what I mean? Just the fundamentals of managing your money, cash flow 101. Perfect. Now, this is going to get the next question is, what are the assets and challenges of being Black and or a woman as a tech founder? I'm gonna say it again. What are the assets and challenges of being Black and a woman, tech founder?
Cool. So thank you. I figured I might get down. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just so I feel like I am in a really awesome place because being a founder of any company, not just in the tech space, it means to me, in some sense, you are stepping out into manifesting your dreams, manifesting the things that you want to see in the world, and being the change that you want to see in the world. That's really important. And I think particularly for Black women founders, which overwhelmingly in, the scope of founders are like the fastest growing in terms of founders across all industries, particularly in the social and medical space, the social assistance and medical space, but also in the tech space. And so I'm loving seeing all of these new funds and programs and opportunities that have been coming up, particularly over, the past year for obvious reasons, but also just in general over the past, I'd say, 5 to 10 years that are focused on Black women entrepreneurs and Black women entrepreneurs in the tech space. So I think one of the assets about that is that, number one, not to be brash, but we know how to do everything anyway. Like, we're probably doing all of the things and just not getting the recognition or having,
hit the figures,
right. I'm just saying, like, you're probably doing all the things, like, the company inside out. Women are usually the CEOs of the family. And so, they know how, to do all of the things that keep a household running, that, keep a business running, keep a family and a community running. The same thing applies. It's just about having opportunity. And one of the things, across the community, Black community in particular, is having access to capital, like having the money to be able to do the things. I've been blessed in that, because I was able to save some money and put some things back, I can step out, and just focus on building my app and not have to keep working a 9 to 5. Like, that's something that I was blessed to be able to do. But it takes time to get there, particularly when, the pay equity gap between the Black woman's salary and the white man's salary is like so long. Like, I think it's something like 40 something cents to the dollar, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the specifics, but it's like, it's abysmal. So, you have that challenge, and then you have the lack of generational wealth in the Black community, and the continued pilfering of our community because of the criminal justice system, which there's no justice in it. But, it's just one of those things that it keeps, chipping away at any of the progress, unfortunately, that we've been able to make. So it's important for us, however, to keep going and to keep pushing. And I think that's one of the things about being, in the tech industry, specifically for Black women, is the tenacity that you have to come with, to say, I believe in my idea. I believe in what it is that it can do. I have, the know-how to find the right target audience, to have a good understanding of the industry that I'm operating in, and to have a command over that space and put a product that meets a need that I see isn't being met, or, creates demand for something that I would like to see, happening in the world. And I think that ingenuity and that ability to problem solve is one of the things that, Black women particularly have been able to do, to find the ways to just keep going, to make that dollar out of that 15 cents, to just say, I'm going to make it any way, and my family and I will, be able to, sustain and keep going. But it's not without, challenge. That is the challenge every day. I alluded to it before. It's like being the only, and having to learn all these different things without as much support, or any support that, your counterpart might have, from a different, background or makeup or racial makeup. So there are a lot of challenges, but I'm so proud of, all the progress and the ability to dream, and the ability to be creative, and the ability to, love what it is that you do, and put that out into the world and allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to say, this is what I want, and I'm committing myself to making that happen. So I think, those are some of the things that, in terms of Black women, but Black women in the tech space, it's a lot of the same, but even harder because you just don't have the type of financial as well as the social support that you need. But I'm encouraged because I see a lot of those things changing. I'm seeing so many different programs coming about, that are focused on overcoming those barriers, infusions of capital, even though it's not nearly enough, but it's something that's people are waking up to, companies are waking up to, and then supporting companies that are giving back to your community. When you spend $1 with that company, $1 or $2 needs to come back in some way to enrich that community, because otherwise, how is it going to keep growing? And how are you going to keep being able to invest? And then also too, of course, supporting each other's businesses. That's why I loved, when you invited me on the podcast and, having Jupiter sharing about what we're doing and having the opportunity to be able to, help other people who are doing the same thing or different or, in a different way. So those are the ways that I see us being able to advance as Black women. And, I feel like sometimes the answer is also in the question, so that's kind of where I am right now with that. But
all right.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I would say, being Black as a tech founder, I think it's great, because at the end of the day, somebody's gonna look at you and say, hey, well, if he doing it, if his Black ass could do it, then I could do it too. That's number one off the top. Part of my my French, but listen, everything has its challenges, being of African descent, but at the end of the day, I feel like at the end of the day, like you still gotta work your magic. You still gotta, do your thing out here. Statistics may not be in your favor, but who cares? Statistics were in favor of a lot of these Fortune 500 companies when they started. And I just look at Africa right now, and like so much stuff is happening over there in the digital space. I'm like, oh no, I'll be fine. I know where I need to be. You got to get around. You like tribe and you like mine. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, the assets of it. You Black. That's an asset in itself. Don't let nobody tell you otherwise. The creativity. The understanding, the problem solving. Everything. Brother, Kayode was saying was, it started in Egypt. It started with us, man. The math, everything else is like, it's already ingrained in your DNA. So don't be afraid to pursue your dreams and pursue things that are going to be transformative and change the world. Just because you may see a statistic, or just because, you may not see too many people doing it. There's somebody out there doing it. The difficulties, I would agree with Dorrissa, is, sometimes the networking aspect of it. I haven't been on LinkedIn as much as I supposed to be lately. I was on there pretty heavy last couple months. I had to kind of take a little chill pill from social media for a little bit. So I was on Instagram for a bit, and I came back to that. I'm like, oh, wow, everybody's doing their thing. I like LinkedIn because it keeps me inspired, and I see other people in the tech space and other, Black folk around the country and around the world that are doing their thing, getting funding, everything that we talk about that we having issues with. Somebody's getting it. I don't know what exactly they're doing, but that's something that I need to look into and find out. What's going, how are they getting this money? Or what are they doing? Some people got, other people on their team that ain't Black. It looks like that may be a key to it also. Right. They go, yo, Kyle, man, I ain't going front.
I know. That's why
I ain't going front on you, but it's just you need to get people on your team that can help you, and I'm working on that too. That actually have the vision. Like you have the vision and stuff, so you're gonna put it out there, but also can like see like, oh wow, like I believe in this project. I'm willing to take some equity versus getting paid for this project, you know. And I know that if, you know, we see it through, then it's going to be successful, and we're going to, you know, we're going to feel good about it when we, you know, as we do it together and stuff. And, you know, I would love for that to manifest moving forward. So, you know, those are the main difficulties. But a solution to that difficulty for me was I joined. I think they're nonprofit, but I don't think they know nonprofit. The Y-Combinator people, and they had their startup. They had a startup school. It's online, you know, watch a lot of videos, you know, but they do have those weekly meetings with other founders. And these are founders from all different walks of life, you know, and the things that I gleaned from them. And, you know, of course, I mean, you know, I'm making connections with them, and, you know, I still keep in touch with them on my LinkedIn. It's like invaluable because they like solve like 10 of my problems just by talking with them. Because that's some of the things that they bring up in these meetings and stuff, like, oh, what are your challenges? What are you doing? What, you know, what's next? You know, how can each other, you know, how can we help each other? So there's like incubators out there. There's also like programs, just like Dorrissa is saying right now with after, you know, the post-COVID and all the stuff that had transpired, that a lot of these larger companies, they're putting that, you know, their social justice missions are to helping out small businesses and helping out startups get up and going. There's a lot of opportunity right now. So yeah, there's difficulties, but there are some solutions right now for us.
And Jupiter, could you expound really quick on like the Y Combinator? Because I know we know about it, but I know a lot of people don't. But it's one of those kind of hotbed incubators for like the top tech.
Yeah, like Dropbox. No, it was a box or Dropbox. It was Dropbox. A whole bunch of them are like that you know of came through Y Combinator and were funded through Y Combinator. Airbnb, like all the big ones that you can think of went through that program. And the startup school is basically just like to get your feet wet if you never thought about doing a startup or even understand what it entails. They basically give you like a business one-on-one of what you need to do to be successful in your business, and also picking the right people to be co-founders, because they're big on co-founders, and making sure that you got help with things. Other people out in the tech space will say otherwise. They say, hey, you know, you got to do your thing, because, you know, that can be tricky. But they push for that, and I understand, because it's always good to have help. It's always good to have another set of eyes on it. And then in addition to all of the videos and all of the readings that they have you do in the program, and it's all automated and it's all free, just to put it out there, it's all free. In the startup school, they have the weekly meetings, and sometimes they, you know, now they were never twice a week, but it was once a week, and then they would have like some other like conference and stuff earlier in the week. But you would meet up with 3 to 4 other startup leaders, and you just shoot anything that's going on with your business, and they tell you about their business, and you can glean a lot from their businesses too. It's like, oh wow, some people at different stages, so they can tell you like, hey, this is what you need to look out for, or hey, we already launched, or hey, we're just getting started and we're not sure this is what we need to do, and you can just help each other out. And that's what I really love about it. It's just a community of founders, and the forum too. They also have a forum, right? So it's a really good resource. There's other ones out there, but I liked it. I think it was definitely a good use of my time.
So Jupiter, I want to jump in reference to what you stated with the Y Combinator, and I also want to ask a question for you and Dorrissa, like as far as ideas, right? So, you know, ideas are plentiful, especially for those who are people who are creative and know a little bit more about the industry than maybe other folks do. And one of the key things, like one of my personal, to be honest, family, one of my personal barriers to entry was ideas, because Black folks like got all these ideas, but we don't know how to execute. And if we try to execute, people steal our ideas, right? So how did you all not only develop the idea, but protect your, what we like to call our intellectual property, you know, our IP, you know, because I don't know if family knows about that, but intellectual property is basically being able to protect your fundamental idea of your product and or service, you know, before it goes to market, you know, and once it does go to market, you get credit, you get residuals, etc. You know. But how did you all go about that process, as not only having the idea, but making sure that it was secured and or wasn't able to be stolen from you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, so I think that intellectual property, property rights. So that's your trademark, your copyrights, and your patents. Those are the different ways that you can protect your IP, are really important. And so just by virtue of creating something, already you have a certain level of copyright protection. And beyond that, and by creating it, I don't just mean you came up with the idea in your head. I mean, you came up with the idea and you put it either in an electronic, format, like you wrote it down somewhere on paper or on your computer, or you drew it out or made a sketch or whatever. Like that in and of itself is copyright protected. When it comes to those creative ideas. Another step beyond that, though, is actually registering that copyright with the Copyright and Trademark Protection Office, which is a federal agency that, you can go and you pay a certain amount and you're able to protect your copyright. And, putting, the little C inside the circle, like on your website or things like that, that helps, and saying all rights reserved. I'm an attorney, but I'm not giving specific legal advice to a specific person right now. So please, I'll keep this very general.
Sure, what you can.
Right. But that's one, bundle of rights. And then beyond that, when you think about trademarks and service marks, those actually have to go through the trademark office, and that can be the trademark office federally or in your state. And that's something that I think a lot of people overlook. Maybe you only have a business that's operating locally. You may not need a federal trademark, but having a trademark in your state is enough. And then you can use the TM, behind whatever name that you have, or the SM behind whatever name that you have. And that's trademark and service mark. And then, if you want to get the R in the circle, that's your registered trademark. And that's only through the federal trademark, office. But then you have things like patents. So if you have a specific invention, that's a product or a process that you want to protect, you can go through, the patent process to be able to protect those ideas. But, when you talk about, people sharing and being vulnerable and protecting those things, it's a mixed bag. It's a balance. Like it's a balance, to be able to just get your idea out there in the world, and seeing, that it's unique enough, because a lot of ideas are, in the same boat. There may be slight variations, and those variations are things that are important. I'm not saying don't overlook them and don't protect them, but you have to do the work to make sure that yours is stand out enough so that you don't say, oh, so-and-so copied my idea, when that might have been like 3 other things that were already out there and you didn't do the research, so you didn't know that. And, that's really the thing. You can go onto, the Copyright Office or the Trademark Office and look up, company names that you have in mind. That was something that I did when I came up with Cos Music. I did, a general Google search. I'm like, who else is using Cos Music? Who else has, a Twitter or IG handle with this name? And there's a lot. But you know what they didn't have? They didn't have a registration with the Federal Trademark Office. So what I was able to do is to put my registration in. And that's the thing, a lot of these laws have changed now, that it's not about who came up with it first, it's who registered it first, who went through the process with, the authorities that be to protect that first. So that's also something to keep in mind. There are things, of course, like non-disclosure agreements or NDAs, as you might know them, to keep people from being able to take your idea, or if you already have an idea and you're bringing on team members, certain non-compete clauses to keep people, who worked at your company from going out and creating something different over a certain time frame. But, those are all things that, you definitely could seek legal counsel for, to find out information specifically how that would apply to you. But there is a certain level of vulnerability of saying, I just need to create. I need to get my idea out. I need to do the market research, and not allow the fact that you don't have XYZ to stop you from going through that process because your idea needs to live. And a lot of people, quite frankly, go through that, process way too soon. Like you haven't even done the market research to make sure that this is something people want, to make sure that you know the industry and understand, who your target customer is. Know everything there is to know about them, how to market to them. Like you haven't even done that, and already you have an LLC, and it's like you need to pump the brakes, sweetie. Like you do it too much. Like it's important to know that, and there's a time for that, But get into these incubator spaces that Jupiter was talking about. Get to know people who are doing this thing that you want to do. Ask questions, be curious, and do the research. And then, once you have a product that's viable, then you do the protections, then you get your LLCs, then you do all these registrations and all that kind of stuff. And you make sure that it's something that has legs and you're not spending capital, precious money on things that you haven't even, road tested yet. So those are things that are very important. And as I say, it is a delicate balance. Everybody is different. And you have to do what you feel like is important to you. Maybe you need to have first mover advantage. So, this is hot. This is something that I know nobody else has. 9 times out of 10, that's not true. But, it may be something that is, and you just have to say, I gotta go and move on this thing and, I'll do the protection stuff, but still do that, make a strategy for how you want to approach it. It's always good to have a roadmap, and to say, when I get to this place, these certain things need to happen. And protecting your IP is so important because, when you do blow up, because a lot of people are too lazy to do the work to make the idea blow up, even if they do hear it. So, you don't have to worry about that. And a lot of times you're already so far ahead in your thinking process and your development of the idea that by the time they would even have done it, you've already, met all the things that you need to make your idea successful. So don't allow that to slow you down. You have to pick the people that you're around very carefully, but at the same time, don't be afraid to open up and to share, to be in groups and communities, of like-minded people who can help you to shape that. That's why I mentioned mentorship and sponsorship earlier. These are people who've been there, done that, know it, and they can just, help walk you through it. Those things are really important. So that's my 2 cents.
2 cents worth a lot.
Disclaimer. I was like, you go in. I like that.
Yeah.
But I have nothing else to add because she's a lawyer, so I'm gonna listen to her. So know your place, know your role, and shut your mouth.
Right.
One thing I would like to add, and I know, Dorrissa, you had that in there, but I stress this to the students and the young people that I speak to, is a business plan. The business plan has the beginning, the middle, and the end. You know what I mean? And sometimes that helps you flesh out the ideas and stuff. But like my man Leo, like he said, I ain't add more to that, Dorrissa. You got it on lock. I know my lane.
Thoroughly answered.
Well, thank you. Yeah, business plan, like all of the market research stuff that I was talking about, all of the protecting your IP, all of that would go into a business plan. And a business plan doesn't have to be 100 pages. Like it can be 1 page. It could be 2 or 3 pages. But it just encapsulates certain key things about your business and how you intend to operate it that help, you or anybody who is assisting you would know, okay, this is where I'm going with this thing and this is what I need to get there. But I'm very passionate about this, as you can see.
We can tell. And I'm sure the family can tell too.
I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about the business plan. I taught a business plan course at a nonprofit. It was funded through the state. And I just want to shout them out. SOBRO, South Bronx Overall Development Corporation, whatever. They have programs that basically help you write a business plan, There's also Project Enterprise, which basically does the same thing. And everything that everyone was saying before is exactly correct. You definitely want to have that. You may get to the point where your business plan doesn't even make any sense, and you switch and do something else. So it's good to have. She's right. You're probably not going to do 100 pages, but the main thing is the marketing plan and having a realistic budget in place to make sure that your idea and your business can actually be sustainable when it comes down to it. So those things are important.
We need to teach a class. Yes, all four start a class.
Yes. Uh-oh. Let's get it going.
Yeah.
We talked about starting businesses, and we touched on the challenges that we have as coaches and what have you. Real quick, this is real quick. Question, brief answers actually. If we haven't addressed this already, what are the risks versus rewards? And if you have an idea to start it, I'm not sure if we touched on that, but just to identify, so people know. It's not all roses. You have to have a certain mindset. You have to have a certain discipline. You have to have the certain persistence. You got to be willing to stick with this. I mean, the successful business might not happen in a year. You might have to put 2 or 3 years in if you're really doing this. This is your calling. This is your purpose. So in line with that, what should people be aware of regarding with relation to the risks versus the rewards in taking that entrepreneurial route?
Go ahead.
Oh man, you have to be so willing to change. You have to change. You have to understand that life is like the weather. It's going to continue to change, and you're going to have to continue to change your outlook, your vision, depending on what your goals are, because sometimes you go one way, it's not going to work. So you're going to have to pivot and do something else in the meantime so you can get to where you need to be. Sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice time. You're going to have to understand there's a balance between hanging out and getting work done. It may be lonely sometimes because you're going to be so focused on your project. And hopefully if you are focused on your project, you'll understand hey, I need to spend these 2 hours because that's all I have because I'm working my full-time job and I have my children or I have my second job. And if this thing won't manifest unless I put the time in, it's consistency. That's the most important thing. And that's the thing that I struggle with sometimes. And I know other people struggle with their businesses. It's just trying to stay consistent on their goals and making sure those things manifest.
Yeah, I concur 100% with what Jupiter said about making sure that, you understand that this is it's a process. It's not something that's set in stone. It's something that you're going to have to work and be a little flexible with, what you have and be willing to, pivot if things aren't going the way that you want them to go. But I think one of the best ways is to test your idea as early as you can, get it out into the world and get feedback and see if it has the potential that you envisioned that it had. And with that feedback, make the changes, and then put it back out there again. It's called iteration or iterating, where you go about the process of making the thing that you want, put it in front of the people that you want it to be in front of. And then listen to your target audience, listen to your ideal customer, listen to your client, and help to develop that quote unquote product market fit as soon as you can. That helps with not, I think, burning out. That also comes along with what I was saying earlier about market research. And market research could be as simple as, let me find 10 of my ideal customers and having a conversation with them about this idea. That's what I did, in the initial phases of coming up with Kai's music. I said, okay, these are my ideal or my target customers. Let me pull together, a 3 or 4 page PowerPoint where I haven't actually made the app yet. It's just the idea of the app, and engage with them for 15 minutes to 30 minutes and ask them about what they think about this about what this product could do for them. Jupiter mentioned Dropbox earlier. And one of the things that they did was they literally put like an email with a sketch or a screenshot of what they wanted to do and like 3 or 4 sentences about what it could do for their customers, and sent out an email and said, is this something that you would like? And got, a certain amount of responses back and said, yeah, I would like to do that. I would like to have that. If so, sign up here. That's one of the ways that you can have a low risk way of seeing if your idea has legs. And you're not putting too much out there in the world. You won't necessarily have to worry so much about, okay, people are going to be able to create this. It's just enough to entice people and to help them to understand, what your idea is, and to get responses from people. And you get to set the goal or the marker that says this is enough of a comfort for me to say, yes, move ahead with this, or I need to go back to the drawing board, or just take the tweaks that they say and then send it out again. And then you go and build the whole thing. So there's ways to go around it where you're not just spinning your wheels and you declare it to the world, this is going to be this amazing thing, and then you're upset, because it doesn't turn out to be that way. Mm-hmm. There's ways that you can go about rapid testing, your idea and see if it has legs, and then going from there.
Good stuff.
Cal, hey, I got some more. Oh,
yeah, go ahead. Go in. Yeah.
What support did you have to seek, or was limited to you beginning your company? Because we mentioned about it's so important. I mean, you do all the work, you do the research as much as you can, but trust me, all of us being founders and entrepreneurs on some level know that we're not an island unto ourselves. We can't do this by ourselves. So the question is, what support did you seek? How did you go about seeking it? With regards to helping, with your founding company and things of that nature, and knowing who to trust, because that's important too, right? You can't bring anyone in. So what was your experience with that?
Yeah, so for me, it started with having an idea for what I wanted to do in life. I've always been very business minded, so that's why I went to school. I went to University of West Florida in Pensacola, Florida. Where I studied business administration, and I studied marketing, and I studied, supply chain logistics. So I understood, how this thing functioned. And then once I actually had an idea that I was really excited about and wanted to see move forward, I enrolled myself in a mastermind course. And this is not something that you have to do, but it was just a course to put me around a mentor who could lay out a process for how I can go about getting the feedback that I needed about the idea to move ahead with it. And it was everything from, doing the market research that I mentioned, where I interviewed, X number of potential customers, coming up with a abbreviated business plan, to talk through how I wanted to do that, and just envisioning it, not necessarily gung-ho going, full throttle with getting the business out, but just sitting with the idea and making sure that I was comfortable with it, and, getting feedback, and then being around other entrepreneurs who are pursuing their own passions and getting inspiration from them, sharing feedback, getting networking, those types of things. And I think that's really important, to be able to find a place that real time can give you some feedback. I know Jupiter mentioned, a community that he's used for that. For me, it's been the mastermind course that I mentioned, other mentors. I'm actually on a web show called Live from the Pink Couch, which is a mentoring web series. And it's 5 professionals. We're each doing different things. I'm running my own company. Some of them are just starting out in their careers. Some of them have been career professionals for a while and they're trying to pivot. But it's, a mentor who's guiding all of us through that. and we're sharing our experiences and giving each other feedback. Hey, let me hear your pitch. Let me give you some feedback on what that pitch sounds like and where you can improve it. How are people that you're engaging with responding to that pitch? Maybe you should try this or that, and then you go out and do the thing and come back and we huddle up and we share about how that's working for us. And you just keep at it. You just keep going. So it's not ever really, in my experience, been like just a one-shot thing. I'm not saying that it can't be for you. But for the most part, you're going to have to just, surround yourself with people who you trust, who can be the support that you need. And, just take one step, listen, readjust, and then take another step and keep building like that.
And I know you mentioned already, your support system, but, is there anything to elaborate on in reference to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. That process was cool. Meeting different people. It was a rotating group, so it wasn't the same people all the time. So you were always on your game and always learning new things all the time. So that was great about that experience. But also, what Dorrissa was saying, getting that feedback, I think is like so important. So friends, family. And also like a lot of the people on LinkedIn that I had met at those conferences, those were like, my beta testers for the most part, and that were giving me that feedback, giving me that encouragement to like say, hey, like, this is really cool. Like this is going, this will make an impact in some way. We really, support what you're doing. These are some things you can improve on and, see what you can do. But, we support you. And at the end of the day, sometimes that's all some people really need to hear to keep them moving forward. Not just, saying it's good when it's not good, but just to say, hey, I know you got some more work to do, but you're on the right track. And these are other people in your profession that are working in your profession, which was really great. So I would think the people that I networked with and that I met on LinkedIn and met at these conferences and touch base with them, I think networking is like so key, and you can't do it on your own. This project would not be out right now without that input.
Thank you, Joe. I understand there's some feedback. I apologize for the feedback if it's on my end. But I want to say one thing. I want to interject real quick, before we continue. Do you think it's wise to seek friends and family for support? Because I've heard the opposite of that too.
Oh man, if anybody really knows me, they understand. Like I love my family, but I give them to them just like I'm giving it to y'all. Like so if there's an issue, it's what it is. It is what it. I love y'all, but
no filter.
I may not rock with you with some things. That's just real. And I get it, because not everybody's living this lifestyle. Not everybody's trying to start a business. Not everybody's trying to do something outside of themselves and to grow. So I'm glad you said what you said, because you're going to have these issues if you're an entrepreneur, any type of business or anything you're aspiring to. You're going to have people in your circle that, yeah, they love you, but they may not be your best support system when it comes time to doing certain things. Like you wouldn't ask a plumber to fix your computer. So you wouldn't ask some people in your family who have a history of not having together to kind of give you advice when it comes to your business. If you know what I mean, or to be that rock for you. You know who your rock people are. The people who your rock, they might not understand nothing about your business, but they can at least give you that emotional support. But when it comes to like X's and O's, you may want to look at some other people, and sometimes it feels like the people that you don't know are your biggest supporters because they don't have any bias.
Yeah.
So those are things that, you want to keep in mind and stuff. Don't look for your family for support. It's good when you have it, but you have to, support yourself and love yourself and keep good people around you that can, pour more into you and you can pour more into them. It has to be reciprocal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think when it comes to family and friends, like having the support is great, but just make sure they also have the skill set to back up what it is that you actually need. When you understand, like he said, I need somebody to do my electrical work in the house, not only is it that they have the skill set to fix the electrical work, but you know, you have that rapport with them to be able to trust that they're going to be able to execute on what it is that you ask for them. And you know, it's a balance, but I think a lot of people want to go into business with family and friends, or they share things with family and friends, and that's good because you need that support system. But a step above that and beyond that is to make sure that they got the skills to pay the bills and to be able to do what it is that you need, and you have that trust level with them to accomplish that. I think that's so important, whether it be, you know, co-founding with each other. A lot of people, especially in the tech industry, they like to have co-founders that, you know, are their buddy from, you know, high school or whatever, but he didn't take the same classes you took, sweetie. His skill set might be different, and you need to respect that. You know, it's when you go into business, like, it's important to make sure that you all are in agreement about what this thing is, and get that agreement in writing. You know, hash it out, figure it out, and then say, you know, these are the terms that we want to operate under. This is our agreement amongst each other. These are, you know, the ways we're going to proceed if that agreement doesn't go in accordance with it. And that's all it is. You know, it's no angst, but you know, if you invite that in, you have to be ready to make sure that the relationship can survive, you know, beyond that. And it's incumbent upon you to put those things in place to make sure that it can. So.
Real quick, this is my last question, man. I promise, but we got to do a part 2 like we do with all our guests, man.
So much. But before you ask that question, Kayode, I want to say something real quick, just in reference to what they're talking about, because you know, because in reference of, you know, Kayode and I both have our own businesses, and we started Grand Rise Collective. So what both of you all are saying is like so on point. It's so imperative that you communicate with your team, with your partner, with the people who are helping you craft your idea in your business, because coming out of that, you know, it causes less confusion, less, like I said, less angst, less anxiety, hurt, pain, all that stuff. And sometimes family, your family, you know, it's not that they're hating on you. Sometimes it's just fear. Sometimes they don't want to see you fail. So they're like, no, don't do that. Don't push the envelope, because, you know, that's going to take hard work, and you might not get what you think you get. And because they're going off their own experiences and seeing other people try. So sometimes it's not a hating thing. It's just like they don't want to see you fail, because it will be like they failed too. They're associating your pain and their pain because they love you so much. So, you know, so I just want to interject that too.
That's true. Thank you so much.
That's true. One thing I just want to say, one more thing, because everybody was saying, in terms of, you know, your family and also like co-founders and stuff like that, they talked about that in Y-combinator, and they had a video about that, and they basically made analogies between co-founders and, you know, business owners and like a marriage and a relationship, and how you argue about the same things, and they just made the correlations. And I was like, that's deep. And that's things that people need to understand. Like, this is kind of like a marriage, and like everything needs to be discussed. And some people have toxic relationships, so they're going to bring that toxic relationship into your business. You need to, just like Dorrissa said, you need to like have a real heart to heart. Like, hey, are you ready for this? Because if you're not, you know, I still love you, but we don't need to do this business together, because I want to keep our relationship.
One point. Listen. I got it. This last statement that we're going. Cal is up to you. That we close it out. I can't stress enough. I have this conversation with contracts, agreements. Written agreements is so important. Sometimes it makes the discussion more uncomfortable. But I think that hard conversation in regards to getting it on paper. So at the beginning, everybody knows exactly what they agreed to, because what usually happens 6 months down the line, a year down the line, so many things change, and you bring it up. Hey, but that's not what we talked about before. And then I don't remember saying that. That's not what we did. You know, so if you have it in writing, you have it like, hey, this is what you said, it's signed, whatever. So contracts, written agreements are so important whenever you do anything, but in particularly when it comes to business, and we're talking about co-founders, co-partnerships, and like you said, baggage from a past relationship coming into another. That paper kind of keeps everybody in check and on the same page and in line. So like Kyle said, at least at the end, you don't lose everything. You know what I mean? It's kind of, so that's all I wanted to interject with that. Guys, great job. Kyle, it's all you. I'm sorry, man.
No, they say I had one more question. No. Well, no, family. What I wanted to ask, because we're wrapping up, the last question, or really comments. How can people reach you all? One, and two, what are some things that you all are working on, or how we could support, or you can maybe give maybe one or two things that people can do, leaving this discussion.
Okay, hold on. Before that,
Yeah,
Dorrissa, with that last question, if you can massage it in, what astrology read out for today?
yeah.
One or two ways tied into your final words.
Yeah, so I think, right now, Saturn is opposing Mars. Mars is in Leo. Hey, Mr. Jupiter Leo, as well as Venus, and Saturn is in Aquarius, which is my sign. I'm an Aquarius sun, Aquarius rising, and a Pisces moon. And one of the other big things is the planet Uranus in Taurus. And forgive me if you don't, have a good understanding.
We got a square going on. So that's yeah.
We got so many squares going on. So it's like coming up against barriers and friction from coming up against those barriers. And what it's encouraging you to do right now is to understand where you're meeting these blocks in the road and do that introspection to say, this is what's causing me to not be able to move forward. Because Mars is about moving forward. It's about, accomplishing challenges. And Saturn is about boundaries. It's about setting up systems. And it can also be about, restrictions. And when those two things are like butting heads, it's almost like, when you're stuck in the mud and your tires are spinning out, but you can't go anywhere, like you're putting in all the effort, but you're not moving. And unless you're on a treadmill and that's what you intend, it's really frustrating. Yeah. But it's like, let me pause. Let me see what's the cause. Do I need to call somebody to help me get through this? And partnerships are really important as well. Having people that, either you're understanding, what they can do to help you or how they're hindering you from meeting the goals that you need and being proactive about addressing that. That's what these squares are about. And then Uranus is really just, it's innovation. It's coming up with different ways of doing things, which can be good, but it can also be very reactive. So the moral of the story is figure out what's holding you back. Figure out how you can dig your heels into the situation and progress, but understand what is holding you back first to unlock that and then move forward. I love sharing about this. I have my website, which is there, www.cosmusic.app. You can reach me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Cosmusic app. And I'm on IG, my first name, Dorrissa. I'm on Twitter, my first name, Dorrissa _Esquire, ESQ. So feel free to reach out to me there. If you go onto my website, you can get what's called a free Star Confidence Guide. Just scroll down to where that is on my page, fill it out. And in the Star Confidence Guide, I give you confidence tips on how you can see, this is where you shine. And this is where you can take that shine and polish it up and make it even brighter. So that's what you can get from the Star Confidence Guide. So go to my website, www.cosmusic.app, and check it out.
Ooh.
Nice.
Getting gifts, family. She's giving out gifts free.
Nice.
And it helps to elevate you. My brother Jupiter Leo.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on IG, Jupiter Leo Productions. You can find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect on LinkedIn. Jupiter Joe Green. You can find me on there. Have a website, jupiterleo.com. That's in transition right now, but I'm still going to be teaching. I don't care what nobody say. I'm going to do it, do it online. But I'm still teaching. And still sharing. And of course, Sister Salon, sistersalon.com. It's a free download. Just scroll down on the page. It'll take you, Android or iOS. and share it with your loved ones, share it with the the young sisters out there that need to see themselves beautiful. They need to see see themselves having fun and making money and doing their hair and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed, brother. We thank you all for adding the value, to our platform, the podcast, sharing your information, sharing your experience. Y'all dropped a lot of solid info today. Much respect.
Much.
Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah. Kayode, you had the last thing to share?
I just want to say I learned a lot from y'all. I thank y'all so much. Wow, you put things in perspective for me, Miss Dorrissa. I did research and stuff, but I was one of those when I started out, my thing is the bomb and mine is going to take off. Years later. So thank you so much. It's been 10 years. And then Joe, my man Jupiter, thank you so much. Cal talks to me about this all the time. I think a lot of people need to hear this, where you have so much value to add to the world. Just put it out there, man. If it's a happy thought, if it's a sad thought or what have you, have technology today, just put it out there because you never know whose life you may affect. That inspired me. Kyle, I'm sorry. I know you've been telling me this all the time, but I mean, got a little more, more out there. That's all I want to
It's a process.
I thank y'all so much. Now we're going to do the 3, 2, 1 countdown because I know you're busy. Thank you so much. So
thank you all.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Peace.